What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at Data and today is June 6th of 2019. Well, folks, I hope you all are having a great day wherever you are, and in today's video, I not only want to spend some time to dive through the basket of different news pieces and price action that we have to discuss, but along with that as well, I really want to focus in on a question that I have no doubt is on the minds of a lot of people in the crypto space. From being invested into it and looking towards higher returns, and then also, as with higher returns, higher adoption, I know a lot of people out there are wondering what's going to lead Bitcoin to moon yet again. What's going to lead Bitcoin to go towards higher levels? I usually don't like using the term moon, but let's go ahead and try to answer that question later on through the video and much more right after our quick sponsor.
Oh. All right.
All right, everyone, so let's go ahead and do an overview on cryptocurrency markets, and then we'll dive into our question throughout the video. So taking a look over the last 7 days, there's a few altcoins in the green as exceptions, but really the rule of thumb across the market is that when Bitcoin drops, altcoins are going to follow. And as we all know, back a few days ago, there's about 2 serious days of sell-side action that has brought down a lot of the gains on these altcoins. Now, to be fair, as much as this looks pretty stark over the last 7 days, and over the last 24 hours, there really isn't much of a trend. In fact, I'd say most altcoins right now are, again, kind of being neutral as Bitcoin pushes sideways. To be fair, this isn't all that severe of a sell-off. We did close down about $30 billion in gains on cryptocurrency markets, pretty much more than a 10% drop from the high. But to be fair, this put us right back down to the later part of May. So we closed down about a little bit more than a week's worth of price action. Not the end of the world. We still have had a great year so far. But I do believe, to be fair with you all, that we haven't seen the full-scale correction just yet. And I'll spend some time to kind of explain my rationale around that and a few different patterns that I'm looking at right now that could unfold. Bitcoin dominance, again, slowly declining. Other coins at, again, a slow pace, but still gaining. Now, we've looked across the board at some of the major altcoins, and we'll do that throughout the video as we take a look at the price action on the market. But I got to say, I'm not speculating with ETH or XRP or any of the major altcoin plays right now. I think we need to see a further correction. And again, I'll detail that when we take a look through price here. All right, so what was originally a green day in price action, again, not a big day in green day worth of price action. Every time I say green day, sometimes I always think about the Green Day band. But as we take a look here, I'm actually taking a look at Binance at the moment, and we can see that, again, what was an upward day is actually starting to look like it might roll over. If we take a look at the 30-minute here, we've started to see a little bit of sell-side action. As we can see, the volume's starting to come up here and build up. And sadly, it's to the sell side here. I know a lot of people don't want to see this. They don't want to see this drop lower. But again, what I'd watch for in these kind of cases where you've been setting higher lows is I wait to see if you get a break down below this, right? A lot of people are hoping, I think, on the bull side that something like this would turn into an ascending triangle, and it could very well. That's something you want to keep open to in these short-term plays. But again, I don't like to look too narrow at the chart like this, guys. I'm looking at the daily, and to be fair with you all, I've already talked about it in my previous video. I think we've broken through the parabolic line. It was very clear in the chart. We had what could have been what was basically an ascending wedge, which was a bearish pattern, and we broke through that. So I'm going to wait patiently for some key levels. Now, what are those levels that I'm looking at? Well, we've got our good friend here that I've talked about in the trading tip series before and I use from time to time, and that is the Fibonacci retracement. Now, the Fibonacci is actually giving us some very key levels to watch. So there's about 3 different ranges I'm looking at, more 2 of them that I'm actually seriously looking at as entry points. So the first one here is not an entry point that I'm looking at, but I would say for maybe a short-term trade, you might get a rebound here similar to what we got over here and formulate a head and shoulders. That would be an interesting short-term rally from 6,900 all the way up to around the $8,400 range. I definitely consider it for a short-term trade, but that's not where I'm putting any long-term entries. The long-term entries I'm looking to really do would be down here at 6,200 and down here at 55 to 5,600. Now, why are those 2 levels that I'm looking at? Well, originally, not only would we obviously want to consider getting anything in the $6,000 range, I've talked about that for a while as I've been betting on a correction to 6,000. But one reason why I would consider a possibility of something going like Bitcoin's price going down to 5,600 is due to the fact that we didn't go all the way up to 10K. That was what everyone was betting on, because we were hoping that just like in the previous correction, that we would see Bitcoin have a 40% correction from the highs, and if it went to 10,000, that would be nicely settling down at 6,000, which is very close to this Fibonacci level. But I do believe we could see it down here to 5,600 because, in fact, if we have a 40% correction from the highs here around 9,100, that's where it would lead to. It would lead very, very close to this Fibonacci level around 56 to 5,500. So I'm very much in the consideration that we could see that, not to mention that's where price had a little pit stop here on the sell side where we actually had some support for a few days. So it's a key significant level. And if we can get Bitcoin down there, guys, I mean, honestly, I'm going to be taking as much cash as I have on the side and adding into my position for the long term. It's just me personally. I'm going to start adding as early as 6,200. I think that that's a range where I have a comfortable risk to reward profile. I've gotten my nice discount. I was able to, lock in a lot of the short-term gains up here for my short-term trades. So I'm going to be adding on both my short-term positions and adding just to my long-term compounding position over time. So that's what I'm thinking about right now. I mean, to be fair, guys, one of the rules of thumb is that usually when you have multiple overbought periods on the RSI, and I'll emphasize this when we take a look at altcoins, when you have multiple periods in the RSI where we're overbought and we decline back into the normal zone, that is usually when you're going to have a correction. You need to revisit usually the oversold region for cryptocurrencies. Don't believe me, you guys can take a look at a lot of the altcoins out there, take a look at Bitcoin and a lot of cryptocurrencies. You'll find some times where it's not a true rule, but it's something that, especially after a rally like this, that you need to see something like that usually. So again, just something I'm watching for. Now we'll take a look real quickly at Ethereum and XRP, and I'll talk to you guys what I mean about what I mean in the sense of the fact that I'm not ready to take risk on altcoins. So first off, the charting pattern up here over the last few weeks, it looks brutal, guys. It doesn't look very interesting to me. This was possibly going to build up an ascending triangle, but it looks like, again, we've broken through the generalized support here, and I don't see any volume coming through to come up and provide that buy side action, not to mention the multiple retests on being overbought without touching the oversold zone. I want to see that before I really buy in. Not to mention, it would be awesome if it came down to 200 because this is where we were seeing a resistance in the last few highs leading up right to this point here over the next few days. And also 200 played a key role in support for Ethereum back here before it had its final sell-off down to the $80 to $90 range. So again, not too far off. It wouldn't even be a crazy correction to see this go down just to this range at 200. So I'm definitely looking at considering to gamble a little bit with some altcoins or dabble a little bit with altcoins at these levels. XRP as well. XRP's got an even a worse chart in my opinion because you have lowering highs here even on the wicks, and it looks like we need to at least get back down in this range between 34 cents to 28 cents before I even consider going long on these. And that's still even a question as to whether or not it will be able to keep up with Bitcoin, right? These rallies have been very, very short-lived for most of these altcoins, but we're seeing it more valuation increase rather in the kind of broader altcoin space between all the countless other altcoins out there, and it's kind of easy to uplift the value of those. It doesn't take too much volume, it doesn't take too much liquidity. These players, on the other hand, it's going to take a lot to do, not to mention there's not the exciting factor of multiples that you'll get with smaller coins. You will not find that in XRP and Ethereum probably much until we get, again, I think the broader uptrend, and it really matters then at that point about liquidity, which obviously there's a lot of fiat gateways to these altcoins. If we take a look at GDAX, Gemini, you name it, Bitstamp, all these exchanges. Now, speaking about multiples, and investing in things of that sort, what will it take Bitcoin to yet again revisit the moon? This is a question that a lot of people ask, and I try to stay away from caring too much about price action, guys, because the more you study about the fundamental developments in the space, you will realize that what happened last year, back in 2017, I guess that's technically it's not last year, back in 2017, about a year and a half ago, when we had this crazy rally in the fall and winter of 2017, going into January of 2018, cryptocurrencies saw probably what was going to be a once-in-a-lifetime kind of opportunity, where it was completely driven off of a small group of people speculating, right? I do believe there's still mass room for speculation in the next few cycles. I do believe that there is catalysts that are going to lead this market to see another 10x, potentially 20x going over the next few years from the previous lows. But taking that into consideration, we need to actually ask ourselves, what can actually lead to this? Because it's not going to be the crappy altcoins that 100x last time, and we're probably going to see a lot less of that. We need something much more fundamental to come through. And I'll be honest, I don't even believe it's just going to be what most people have been shouting about over the last few years, which is institutions, a Bitcoin ETF. I do believe that's going to play a huge role in increasing the liquidity of the space. But there has to be some more fundamental developments. So what are some of those things? Well, the first thing that I want to talk about, and you guys have probably heard me ramble about it if you're a continuous daily update watcher, and if you aren't already, I recommend you guys subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Always appreciate it. But one thing that I've talked a lot about is the DeFi movement. All right, this is the decentralized finance movement, and DeFi is basically this whole kind of shared effort to build open source, decentralized, censorship-resistant technology that opens up financial opportunities to pretty much everyone, and tries to provide, cut out the middlemen, try to provide the best peer-to-peer experience for finance. So exchanging of assets and tokens, opening up markets, for example, like crypto loans, stable coins that allow anyone to have the purchasing power of the US dollar and the stability of the US dollar comparative to, for example, let's say if I'm a citizen of Venezuela, the Venezuelan bolivar is losing its value rapidly. If I could have an Ethereum wallet on my phone and be able to, have something that's pegged to the US dollar, that'd be extremely exciting. And what I do believe, we're talking about Bitcoin here, I guess predominantly, I do believe that Bitcoin is going to have to get itself involved in this successful movement that's taken over the Ethereum space. I think we're going to have to see Bitcoin and some of the new projects that are experimenting with smart contract technology like Rootstock, a lot of these things that are going to add a programmable framework to Bitcoin to allow us to lock up Bitcoin in smart contracts and to generate stable coins very similar to DAI. I think Bitcoin needs to see that. And I think that's going to play a big role in linking up not only the crypto space in general, but specifically Bitcoin and valuation, because Bitcoin is going to be acting as the collateral, or what I like to call it as, in this case of generating stablecoins, the store of value in this case. It's going to be the backbone of this kind of new wave of stablecoins in this case that can be pegged to pretty much any value they want. Another thing as well, obviously, is that we have so much room for adoption. So it's kind of a gray area, guys. I know we talk a lot about adoption in this case and what adoption really is. But the fact of the matter is if we're just taking at the base level ownership of cryptocurrencies, a lot of people will debate whether or not people will use crypto in transactions. I think we're a little bit of ways away from that, especially for people in the West who are investing in it. I'd say that, we still have a long way to go. We're at less than 1% global adoption for cryptocurrencies. We still are, even as we've gotten this ramp up from 3 to 9,000. I know I've pressed that point before, guys. We are at less than 1% adoption for just owning some type of cryptocurrency, right? So even if we just get to 2 or 3% or 4 or 5%, you've got a multiple of individuals coming in. You've got more institutional capital that's going to flow in. You're going to have the incentivization to create something like a Bitcoin ETF. And again, and continue to open up exchange services, things of that sort that allow people to get some kind of access to this market. So I would say those are really the two things I'm looking forward to that really excite me. And it's not even an ETF. I'm talking about the expansion of the DeFi movement, continuing to see cryptocurrencies expand upon its rooted nature in finance. I think that's where cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology really flourish. I don't see a lot of the other applications on par with finance and money, because money is so important. Financial services and opening that up to the world. That's what Bitcoin was all about. It was the idea that anyone could become their own bank if they simply had some kind of technological device, like most of us do in the world. So that's what I'm excited about. And then along with that, again, an expanding audience. And I think, to be fair, that's going to come with price. It's going to come with expanding utility, mostly rooted, again, in the DeFi movement. So that's what I'm excited about, and I think this is the two. But I'd like to know what you all think down in the comments down below. I'm not the be-all opinion. I want to know if you guys agree or disagree, or maybe you just feel that it's going to come from somewhere else. So feel free to leave a comment down below. But if you guys agree, definitely consider if you guys give it a like, and let me know down what you think down below in the comments. So speaking about other types of cryptocurrencies, Facebook has set to reveal its own cryptocurrency in June, a selection of reports have said. So this is the Facebook coin that we've been hearing all about. And the information came out on a report on Wednesday that Facebook is poised to unveil its cryptocurrency to the public later in June. And I'll be honest, guys, I think this is going to come out. And the reason why they're pressing this so hard is due to the fact that Facebook and most tech companies right now are in a very fearful phase. If you guys keep tuned to the end of my videos, you hear me usually talk about my equities portion. And as you all know, there's been a recent probe on two of the major tech companies, Facebook and Google. And this has been due to the fact of the censorship and, I think a lot of things as well that just kind of point out to the fact that these tech companies have become so impactful in our lives. So I think they need to bolster something like this to get people excited, not only, for the stock price, but also to show that Facebook is expanding outside of its original business model. Facebook is a platform. Yeah, it's still active. Yeah, it's still making tons of money. But it's a dying platform for a youthful audience, right? Like myself. A lot of people my age don't use Facebook. So the thing to take into mind is that what they're actually trying to do here is they're trying to become the equivalent of WePay in the United States and abroad. They're basically trying to follow WeChat's footsteps in China and take that same model to the world stage. They've got the platform for it. They've got the user onboarding for it. Why not? So basically, it aims to allow users to process transactions via social media channels and will be offered to Facebook employees who want to be paid in the form of cryptocurrency. So really interesting stuff. I have to be fair. I'm genuinely interested to see what they come out with. If they have some cool features with it, I'll be fair, guys. I'm not putting my net worth in Facebook coin. I don't care. No ifs, ands, or buts. I might speculate on it. Might trade if they actually had it on exchanges. I don't think they're going to do that. But long story short, again, you can call it a cryptocurrency all you want. I see it as a digital ledger when a central company is not only the creator of it, but is the manager and one that can censor transactions, things of that sort. And I know they're going to have to be able to have that kind of control due to standard regulations, and not to mention the amount of money that they're raising. Alrighty, so former Mt. Gox CEO Mark Karpelès, as you all might know, if you don't know, Mark Karpelès was the founder of Mt. Gox. And Mt. Gox was one of the largest exchange hacks. I pronounce it as MT Gox because it's Magic the Gathering online exchange, but I guess people like to call him Mt. Gox now. Anyways, I'm petty about that. Basically, Mt. Gox has its original CEO has led out towards creating a new platform, and it does have to do with relational blockchain technology, but it actually doesn't have to do with cryptocurrencies. Mark's actually, I think, kind of been scarred for life with the events of Mt. Gox and has actually moved on from cryptocurrencies, but he's keeping his love for Japan, where he originally started the exchange. So he said, "My love for Japan has not changed," and in fact, he's moving towards again, staying away from cryptocurrencies. When people asked him about whether or not he held cryptocurrencies, he said no. I have a hard time believing he doesn't own any cryptocurrencies. He said that basically they carry high risks and that he had likened them to a game of musical chairs for 10,000 people. Yikes. So he's gone on to basically create a separation of three different companies under a parent company known as Tristan Technologies. And they do have to do with blockchain. This section of the site is written in Japanese. I couldn't get it to translate. So he basically, it quotes here that it's combining legal design and cutting edge technology, new solutions that can become global standards, and that they will continue to send it all from Japan in this case. I bet the translation's a little bit off, but basically doing it all from Japan. He had a passion in the article stating that he wanted to bring a lot of the leading technologies that Japan used to lead in to the forefront in Japan and make them a leader yet again. So he's working on cloud technology, things that have to do in relation to blockchain and file storage. So a lot of interesting little small startups, and it's good to see, Mark Karpelès. I wish him all the best, but at the same time, I really do believe to kind of talk negative on cryptocurrencies. I guess he's got some personal experience from it, but I honestly do disagree with him in the sense of, the fact that crypto is just a game of musical chairs. Yes, it is the wild, wild west days. Yes, there's a lot of speculative plays, but if you've been in Bitcoin for the longer term, there's a very short window of time here that you might be down on Bitcoin, right? The longer term game here proves that if you're in this for the longer term, it's not a game of musical chairs. It's something that is becoming a rising store of value. It's becoming a rising recognized asset across the world. So I do disagree in that regard. Now, another thing I want to talk about, because I know we've got a lot of new people coming into the space, and I'm going to keep pressing it to people, who are new so they don't get misled. There is a lot of exchanges out there that are still producing absolutely pure, clear as day wash trading. Okay. Now, this article is talking about a specific exchange that had 90% of all Paxos or USD Tether, basically two of the leading stablecoins, volume for the trading activities. So right here, we've got BitMax that's leading, and this is on CoinMarketCap and a lot of coin aggregate sites, where basically this actually, sorry, this isn't just even Paxos and USD Tether volume. This is the pair directly trading between them. And it's claiming that there's over $2.6 billion of volume on BitMax. Now, I know some people who know BitMax and the team there. I don't know any of them. And to be fair with you guys, I don't really give a damn. I'm going to be fair with you all. That's either for example, transaction mining, basically where people, or fee mining, basically where if you own the BitMax token, you get basically currency in this case from holding that token due to the fees that are collected on the exchange that get paid out to token holders, or it's just straight up wash trading. And I have the confidence, the sheer confidence to say that, because there's so many exchanges that do this. There's so many out there. There's Bit4x, there's what else is there? There's so many. DigiFinex, all these exchanges are doing it, and they don't even hide it. It's just too obvious at this point. And what they're hoping to do at the end of the day, from my assumptions, again, I could be wrong on this, my assumption is that at the end of the day, when you have an exchange, the first thing you want to do is bring coins onto your exchange. You want people to bring your money over there, not only just for liquidity and trading, as most people would think. But I think at the end of the day, if these exchanges are thinking in the short term, what's to say that these exchanges aren't going to try to lure you in with volume, and then you bring your coins onto those exchanges, and then, you can't really withdraw it. We've actually got to shut down for the next 7 days. We got to do some maintenance. When enough Bitcoin, when enough incentive comes onto the exchange, they're going to be running away with the money. I really do believe that that's the case, guys. And it's why I have a high respect and trust when I have my money on something like Coinbase or Bitstamp or Gemini, these actual regulated exchanges that have penalties if they don't, that have insurance to cover if there is a hack, that actually do things by the books, that aren't some kind of offshore, exchange in some Asian country and stuff that I don't know about, right? I don't mean that in a rude way with saying Asian stuff. It's just that that's where a lot of these exchanges are popping up, and they don't have the regulatory oversight to take care of it. It's the same thing with all these fee mining exchanges, Fcoin, all these things that popped up overnight and were huge Ponzi schemes with their tokens. They were really just pump and dumps. So again, avoid these like the plague, guys. Okay, do not touch these exchanges. That is not organic volume. There's a reason they have those two little stars there, those little asterisks. It's because they're not certain that that's actual real organic volume. And I can tell you 100%, I know that that's not organic volume. Alrighty, I've rambled on enough about crypto markets, guys. To give a quick summary on equity markets, not much has changed. We all know, if you guys watched my video yesterday and you haven't, I really recommend you watch yesterday's video. And that basically goes through in details how the Fed has recently decided, or hinted in a sense, it hasn't fully decided. We'll know as soon as mid-June, around the 16th, I think the 15th or 16th, when the FOMC meeting goes on, that they are going to be cutting rates. It is very likely at this point. And we can see that the markets have reacted promptly. So we're currently at 8:30 in the morning here. We saw, though, however, between June 3rd, 4th, and 5th, that we have had a really nice rally in all, basically across the board in U.S. equities and global markets as well. If you look at global futures, the U.S. is not the only one. There's been a lot of markets rebounding off of this news because, as I've talked about on the channel, guys, global markets now are interconnected, and it's a simple game of inflow and outflows. If one of the largest economies in the world is looking to inject capital, that capital can flow anywhere at once. And it also provides relief for other central banks to do the exact same because, again, it's this like kind of balance between protecting the value of the currency and equities. If the U.S., which has been leading, in the sense of its currency, it's the world reserve standard, even though there is a lot of things I think that have started to strip away at that position, it's held quite strong against other competing currencies because the U.S. central bank has been able to basically retrace its monetary policy. If it lays back its monetary policy, that gives everyone else some room to breathe. That lets other central banks like Greece, and basically the UK and basically all these different countries throughout Europe and Asia to do the exact same thing. They can keep their equity markets afloat. And I bet you'll see it. And I actually haven't even taken a look at the Shanghai Composite, which we've been talking about from time to time. Again, still holding up a lot of these gains and stuff when we were talking about the record breakout here. I mean, this was, as I have my little arrows pointing out here, at this double bottom here throughout January and February, the Chinese economy saw the largest expansion of private sector credit generated in history in a single month. The equivalent of, I think it was like 448 billion US dollars or something along those lines. Absolutely astronomical. And still, even with that, they can't keep up equity markets. That's how pitiful it is. That's how weak the Chinese economy is. And I know that some would say this is trade warfare, this is that. That stuff's been around forever. That's been the picture for a long time, right? Maybe the tariffs have ramped up a little bit, but to be fair, this is due to the fact, guys, that the Chinese economy, as well as other economies, are slowing down. right? The game is up in a lot of ways. It may not collapse tomorrow or anything like that. I'm not a doomsday prepper or anything like that. I do say though, you should come prepared if you have the resources for it. There's nothing wrong with it. But at the end of the day, I haven't said it at the end of the day in a while. That used to be my key slogan. I used to say that too much. The major point I want to drive home, guys, is that equity markets are reaching towards the end of their cycle. It's the reason since 2018 I've been bearish, right? U.S. equities, it depends on what index you're looking at. I guess the NASDAQ set slightly higher levels than back here when I started to get bearish in 2018. But we're pretty much still at the same range of highs and stuff, guys. We've been pushing sideways, and it's been getting more and more volatile. The fact that the Fed had to jump on a dime like that and saw that we were going through the exact same correction off the same exact fears that have been present, as well as a decline in global profits, corporate profits, they realized that this market is artificial at this point. And as Jay Powell stated, he will do anything to keep the economic expansion going. He will do anything to keep this expansion going. Do not reject his belief that he will do anything. And they've got two major weapons to push this out to NASDAQ 10,000. They're going to not only cut rates, they're going to start buying up financial assets. And until we reach 10K, it's party time, right? So if they actually go about cutting rates, guys, on mid-June, I wouldn't bet against equities, not in the short term. In the long term, oh boy, they're going to make let's just say, if you keep filling up the punch bowl and keep the party going and stuff, and, if you keep feeding alcohol to an alcoholic, you're only going to get a bigger hangover, all right? So I'm not really good with analogies. That's it for the end of the day, though, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all are having a great day wherever you are, and I'd like to know what you all think about all of this across the board in this video. Leave a comment down below, as always, and I hope you all enjoyed my rambling. If you did, consider giving a thumbs up and leaving a comment down below. But until the next video, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Stay tuned.